5. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is the City Council closed session for April 2nd. We will open today's meeting at 5:01. And can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Martinez?
Here.
Councilmember White?
Here.
Councilmember Voigt?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lara?
Here.
Mayor Fenn?
Here. Thank you. And do we have any public comments for closed session?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line? Rudy, can you try that again?
I have no callers on the line.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pinckney, can you read the items for discussion?
Yes, item B1 will be Public Employee Performance Evaluation, and the title of the position is City Manager. This is just the annual City Manager evaluation. Item B2 is Conference with Labor Negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency designated representatives are David Fenn and Jessica Voigt. The unrepresented employee is City Manager. Item B3, Conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated existing litigation, and this involves workers' compensation case. The case number is listed in the agenda. Item B4, also conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated existing litigation, also a workers' comp case. The case number is listed in the agenda. And then item B5 is conference with real property negotiators. The property APNs are listed in the agenda. The agency negotiator is the city manager, Elizabeth Gibbs, or her designee. The negotiating parties are City of Beaumont as potential purchaser, and GRT BP1 LLC as potential seller under negotiation or price and terms.
Okay, thank you. And we will adjourn to closed session at 5:02. Good evening, everybody. We'll call tonight's meeting to order at 6:58 PM. This is we're opening the regular session of the City Council meeting for April 2nd, 2024. And can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Martinez?
Here.
Councilmember White?
Here.
Councilmember Voigt?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Here.
Mayor Finn?
Here. Thank you. And Mr. Pinckney, can we get a report out of closed session?
Yes, the council met on item B1, public employee performance evaluation regarding the city manager. It was the annual evaluation, and there was no reportable action. Item B2, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency designated representatives, David Fenn and Jessica Voigt. The unrepresented employee, the city manager, there was no reportable action. Item B3, conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated existing litigation involving a workers' comp case. The case number is listed in the agenda. There was no reportable action. Item B4, conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated existing litigation. The case number it's a workers' comp case. The case number is listed in the agenda. There was no reportable action. Item B5, conference with real property negotiators. The property APNs are listed in the agenda. The agency negotiator, city manager Elizabeth Gibbs or her designee, the negotiating party, City of Beaumont as potential purchaser, and JRT BP1 LLC as potential seller. Under negotiation, price, and terms, there was no reportable action.
Okay, thank you, sir. And then we will open up our meeting officially with our invocation by Ron Dupreez. We appreciate you being here, Ron. And then following that, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. White.
Dear God, we pause a moment in your presence to thank you for this group that meets together to make important decisions. We pray your blessing on each member here, and as they plan for the services, the programs, the policies, and everything else for the citizens and those property owners, we pray that this meeting will be a blessing to each one, not just those here, but especially those who are impacted by these important decisions that are made. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, gentlemen, and we want to shout out to our public, and thanks for your patience. Our closed session ran a little longer than expected, so we appreciate your patience tonight. We don't see any requests for excused absences, and so then we will move to, do we have any adjustments to the agenda? Okay, seeing none. And then any conflict of interest disclosures this evening? None. Okay, and then we have a community calendar presentation for our announcements and recognition portions, and that will be done by Julie Van Hook.
Good evening, City Council. Today I'm here to introduce to you a new communication tool, which is our community calendar system. And with us today is our co-founder of the With Calendar, Noah Zeldin, who's on the line today, who will be co-presenting with me as well. And so you may be asking yourself, why are we transitioning to a new calendar system? We already have one on our website. Well, there's a few reasons. First and foremost, we're looking for tools to enhance community engagement, right, which is a council strategic goal. We're also looking for tools that'll make things easier, right, for the public to engage with us. And this new calendar platform will enhance communication to our residents and visitors for the entire pass area, serving as a centralized hub for events and engagement. There are many benefits to this new platform for our community calendar. I'm going to highlight a couple for you, and then Noah will kind of go into a little bit more detail on that. So first and foremost, the new system will kind of aid in organization and in coordination of efforts, kind of preventing the overlap and conflicts that sometimes happens in our pass area when we schedule events. So having one centralized hub will kind of aid us in having a little bit more organization. We've experienced that locally. We've experienced that with other agencies, right, where we have events planned and sometimes there's a conflict. This is also will aid itself in convenience for the public, right? Having one centralized hub, it'll be easy, right, to know what's happening in the entire pass area. And then the third highlighted benefit that I'm going to talk about this evening really is the engagement tool of this new platform. It encourages participation through registration. And with registering for events, we can actually do direct marketing outreach, which is new, right? Our current calendar system doesn't allow for us to do that. And it's based on events of previous interest. And so a really good example, if we went live with this calendar last year when we had Monster Mash, right? If we required registration and those people that attended and registered for the Monster Mash event, we could connect the lines and say they're probably interested in our December holiday events, right? Like our Blizzard Bash. And so we would do a direct outreach, kind of like a listserv, right? And so it just aids us in communicating. What it also allows, which is very private sector, it allows us to communicate to them up to the event and during the event. So if we have a location change, like we had this weekend with Rain, right? Our teen and tween inaugural ACON event that went from the sports park to the CRC, we can actually communicate directly to residents who have registered for the event. So whether it's weather changes or, hey, come to the stage, right? We're starting our ceremony, we can communicate directly. So very private sector kind of driven, which you may all be used to if you've been to any kind of concert or something. I went to a concert a few years ago and I actually had those text messages, which is, it just helps foster engagement. So at the end of the day, right, we're just trying to make a source, a communication tool that's centralized and makes it easier to engage our public. And the platform is user-friendly, it's mobile-friendly, has a mobile-friendly interface, so it'll integrate naturally into our website and into our mobile app. And then the platform, we're actually in the process right now of integrating it into our website, so it should be up and running within the next few weeks. And at this point, I'm going to toss it over to Noah. Noah should be on the line. She's going to highlight some key features and benefits and then do a short demo of our Beaumont platform.
Hey everybody, how are you?
Hello.
Thank you very much. Sorry. So my name is Naz Eldin. I'm one of the co-founders of the company. As Julie mentioned, we're a centralized hub for registrations and communications, working with over 70 cities today. We started in our home base, so we're based in Israel. We worked with over 60 cities worldwide, but we entered the US market in the past year, working with over 10 cities, 5 of them in California. So this is where we started. And our vision is to make the community a very welcoming place for the residents. We realized that in many cases, as a new resident, let's say for Beaumont, or someone who is passing by, or maybe someone who is not as connected already with the community, it's really hard for you to really understand what's going on. What can I do with my 3-year-old child? What can I do as a cycling lover, food lover, etc. You have to go usually to 10, 20, 30 different Facebook groups or be in the know with different people. We want to help centralize the ecosystem and make it very, very resident-centric, right? So I could actually look for things to do with kids or in specific times and afternoons or based on specific interests I have, instead of having to go to individual departments or even know the difference and the distinction between the city and possibly the Chamber of Commerce and school districts. So to have the city kind of a bit more welcoming to me, and for me to be opting to different community activities and events, to basically lower the barrier for that and allow the city later on to further communicate with me based on my interests and preferences. Any questions before I kind of highlight some of the key features?
I think we're okay. Go ahead.
Awesome. So let me go ahead and share. Can you all see the Beaumont community calendar?
Yes.
Awesome. So there are different views for the calendar. This is all going to be integrated in your site very shortly. One of the most popular views is the calendar view. And again, what makes this unique is that, first of all, it's mobile friendly. It's very user friendly and easy to kind of navigate. But also, it doesn't just put the department, right? I don't need to go into a specific department. It's much more about me as a resident. So, for example, if I look for something for families or children or teens, seniors, etc., or I actually want to look for a specific event, whether it's a council meeting or whether it's pop-up events, I can just filter and it will basically repopulate the platform. And you can see here, for example, a star party happening, and you can see all these different tags, right? So when someone registers to any of these activities, on the back end of the system, which is the communication system, which is only open to the city admins, you'll be able to understand which residents are interested in pop-up events, cultural events, or are part of the young families or adults community. So later on, you could potentially communicate around these topics. So this allows you to filter and kind of bring everything in. One more important feature I want to highlight in the front end of the system, and again, this is going to be the part that is going to be exposed to the resident, is the plus sign you're seeing on the right corner. So this allows the city to basically invite other departments within the city and potentially later on trusted partners to suggest events and activities, again, to try to create a consolidated one-stop shop of a calendar for the community. So it's pretty easy and intuitive to open up a new event. So let's say a pickleball tournament, you can use the different tags. So it will be easy for me to find it as a resident, right? Maybe a good place to meet new people. Maybe it's for families or for adults, sport lovers. So we can always add new categories as we go to make this more and more and more comprehensive and more specific. And the city admins will get a request for someone from these organizations that don't have their own admin approval to post this on the calendar. So the city still have the full autonomy to accept and reject and obviously access the data of the registrations. So, but this makes like 90% of the work a lot simpler because these organizations could create the event, pick the photos, pick the tags, write the time and the day, etc. And the city will only need to either approve or reject for that to come up on the main calendar. Everything here is shareable over social media, so you can still use social media outlets to publish these events, but what we're trying to do here is still to have one place that residents can plan their week ahead, their month ahead, and kind of get exposed to other events that could be relevant for them, as opposed to just doing it on social media where it's very much a hit or miss situation where you could actually scroll and miss the opportunity because you didn't really have it on a calendar in a way that you could go back to a calendar, register, and discover more opportunities. Anything I missed about the front end, Julie, that you'd like me to mention?
Hi, Noah. This is Julie. No, I think you you covered all the main areas there that we had discussed. At this point, we could probably open it up to council unless you have anything else, Noah, to add.
No, maybe just like lastly, I would say that the back end, again, is solely exposed to the city, and the city could use it for personalized communication about whether events are being delayed, but also, as Julie mentioned, if I'm a music lover and I register to events that have to do with music concerts, I may be interested in the next jam session coming up in town. So still a way for me to get very, very personalized, activities I opt in for in the past.
Mayor, I just wanted to add, for years, this community has been searching for a centralized calendar. We all have events going on, the chamber, the school district, the park district, the city, Rotary. And what happens right now is we have to call around and say, are you having anything in September? When can we do the state of the city? And what Julie and I have found is everybody can go to this calendar, and we can, if approved, we can put the chamber events on here. We can put the park district events on here. And then we can see if there's an overlap or if we're going to conflict. We recently had a ribbon cutting for one of our new businesses that conflicted with another groundbreaking event with another agency. And we had to call the business and say, all of our dignitaries are going to be at another event. You might want to think about moving it. This program is going to prevent all of that. It's going to save staff time, and we're going to collect the data. We're going to know how many people are interested in walking. Should we start a walking club? How many people are interested in art classes, things like that. So, and Banning is now going to use the same. We actually got the idea from them. I should give them credit. They're going to use this program as well. So the Pass area is going to have a centralized calendar that I've wanted for years.
That's great. And that was going to be my question, is how do we become the filter then if for the other agencies that, that are saying, hey, we have this event, it comes to staff or goes to Julie, I would assume, and then you would be the gatekeeper in terms of what goes on, correct?
Right. And I would encourage our agency partners and our nonprofits to do that, because that's right. The main point is to have a centralized hub. So we will go forward with that as soon as we kick it off, and I'll encourage them, reach out to them. I have a full outreach plan in place.
And then if there was a conflicting event, then a city event would take priority, I would imagine, correct?
Right. I think we would list both, but
I would list all of them.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I see on social media, what's going on in town today? What can I do with my
And
kids?
there's somebody that has a choice.
And if there's four
Yeah.
different events, they can go to the one that they want to go to.
Very good, okay. Ms. White?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. I'm excited for this. I think it's awesome and something that's definitely needed. I know it's going to be embedded on our website. Is it going to be app friendly for the cell phone?
right, it's mobile friendly.
Okay.
And then it's also integrated into our mobile app. It will be, so.
Okay, great. And then when the events are on there, does it hyperlink to either your Android or your Apple calendar?
It should. Noah, you're on the line. With the text message response that comes after registration, Councilmember Voigt is asking if there's a direct, like iCal integration or something. I think there is. Is that right, Noah?
Yes. I have to say that I think what makes this platform unique is that we design it as a mobile first. The reason why we did it, working with so many cities, we found that 87% of registrations and exploration happens on the mobile. So anyone who is not mobile friendly is just missing out for probably most of the residents or discovering opportunities as they go. So this was designed firstly for mobile.
Excellent, thank you. I know as a busy mom, I live and die by my calendar, so that is
For sure.
greatly appreciated. And then also, when new events are added, are there alerts that are pushed out, or are those alerts only based off of your interaction, or do they come when it's added?
Sure. So alerts are pushed out based on your interest in what you've signed up for, right? So if you say your interest is, family-centric events or, open community events, it'll send you an alert for that.
Okay.
Yep.
I think I would like to see that maybe on some of our larger events that it's pushed out, even if it's not your interest. Because I think sometimes, people can be stepped outside their comfort zone.
Agreed.
So I would just caution on narrowing our focus like that sometimes. Thank you.
Sure thing.
All right, thank you. I have another question. What do we have in the system in terms of privacy protection and like age requirements of individuals who do sign up? we know kids have cell phones these days and so forth. Is there a policy or program in place that if the information gets put in as a registrant, that database is somehow protected, and so forth, and that information, or do we have an age requirement to sign up? Is there anything like that to protect youngsters from getting on there and their information being shared?
Sure. Noah, can I defer to you on that?
For sure. So, regarding, generally speaking, if I start with the privacy, we're within the most strict privacy protocols, GDPR compliant, ISO 2 compliant. That's just one thing. Regarding the age requirement, obviously this is something that has to do with the city's policy, but you can't register to an activity without email or phone verification, right? To actually register to an activity. So this will allow the city to verify users if you decide to do so, right? But it really has to do with the policy that the city decides to put in place.
Okay, so and just thinking of like kids where they register school, especially during COVID, and they had to do things online. They had their own email accounts and so forth, registered with school districts and all that. I'd imagine that data is protected, and so forth. Just the thought was, is if we were doing that and it was open to everybody, that we had the same. And I'm not sure if we had anything in place now, or just was a thought that just to make sure it doesn't go south on us.
Just to confirm your question, so are you asking if the data that we're collecting is shared?
Correct.
Okay,
And,
so no, that
okay,
answer
all right,
is
that's
no.
good to know on that. And then just I would imagine, depending on the event, it may be youth oriented, and so
Correct.
a teenager can say, oh, okay, it's for the rescheduling of the Easter egg hunt.
Right, right.
They don't need most teenagers aren't going to need their parent to register for them. They're just going to do it themselves.
Sure.
Okay, all right. And do we have any other questions from council? All right, Noah, thank you for being here. Appreciate that. Julie, I think it's going to be a great service, and I'd love to see all those calendars put together. And it sounds like we may even be sharing with our neighbors too, with Banning and Calumet when events are going on too. All right, cool. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. And then, Nicole, do we have any public comments for any items that are not on tonight's agenda?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers online
I have a caller on the line.
for items not on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and send it through. Caller, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, great. Good evening, council. This is Ron Roy from Fairway Canyon. At the last council meeting, the council discussed how the Potrero interchange can be funded and built. I'm asking for some clarification and recommend a funding option for the interchange. According to what I've read, I understand the budgeting for the interchange as follows. The total cost to complete using a park load design, $62.5 million. Available funding includes Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, $33.5 million. RCTC Measure A, $8 million. TUMP, $8 million, with a total available funding of $49.5 million. Now, according to the Record Gazette, $11 million has been spent, but I don't see where that's been accounted for, except for an article that says $2.72 million has been paid to Mark Thomas. At any rate, the gap between the total cost and available funding to complete the interchange appears to be $13.5 million. For clarification, I would like an exact breakdown here of cost, funding, and expenditures and the funding gap. Now, as the council knows, I oppose Beaumont's specific plan and believe that the Potrero interchange can be funded without any promised funding by the Beaumont Point developer. I'm asking the council to use other ways to fund Potrero without relying on these promises. For example, according to the city's 2023 annual comprehensive financial report, The city's balance sheet shows a total net position of $538 million. That's a healthy position. I'm asking that the council consider funding the $13.5 million from the city's equity position. The city would still be left with a healthy $524.5 million in its overall net position without any need for the Beaumont Point project. And I trust there's other funding sources available without Beaumont Point. Now, not all warehouses generate sales taxes. Therefore, in the spirit of containing warehouse sprawl and winning away from this fluctuating revenue source, I would also like the city to report on a per building basis actual and projected sales tax revenues from operating in previously approved warehouses within the containment zone, north of 4th Street, west of Veely Avenue, east of Hidden Canyon, and south of SR 60. Please fund the Beaumont Treasury without Beaumont Point, and for that matter, Legacy Highlands, which are projects way beyond the scope of anything Beaumont residents ever bargained for. Finally, please consider the Divergent Diamond interchange design for Potrero, which if you compare with the partial clove relief, you'll find uses the least amount of land, has the most safety features, especially relating to big rig trucks and their conflict points with other vehicles, does a better job at relieving congestion, and is the least costly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. No other comments?
No other written comments. Rudy, do we have any other callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to item G, consent calendar. Do we have any items to be pulled for discussion? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve items G1 through G5 on the consent calendar.
Mayor, may I make a point of clarification?
Sure.
G5 has to do with travel expense for me, so I'm going to abstain for G5.
Okay, then
Okay.
I will modify my motion to move to approve G1 through G4.
I'll second that. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes. Okay, and then item G5.
I can move to approve.
Okay, and I'll second that. Can I roll call on that, please?
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes. Okay, thank you. And then we'll move on to item H, our youth council report. Mr. Martinez.
Next meeting is the 9th, and we'll be hopefully talking about recruitment.
All right, thank you, sir. And item J1, the adoption and updated strategic communication plan for 2023 to 2026. And we'll have our staff report by Ms. Julie Van Hook.
Good evening. Mayor and City Council, today I'm here to present to you the 2023-26 Communications Strategic Plan. This plan was presented back at the December 19th City Council meeting, where I gave a very in-depth overview of my communications audit and the plan itself. During the presentation, Council expressed some slight changes to the tactical component of the plan implementation, and those changes are reflective in the plan before you. And I just want to give a friendly reminder again that this is a guide, right? It's supposed to be nimble and adaptive to the needs of our organization with regards to communications. And so with that, I would love to open it up for any comments and your consideration for approval tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public comments on the matter?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, thank you. And council discussion? Mr. Martinez, your light's on?
Yeah, just a couple of them. Thank you, Mayor. So on page 4, where it mentions sister cities, I'm not sure if we use that much, that title. I'm thinking, are you considering neighboring agencies? Is that what you're trying to?
Neighboring agencies, neighboring cities. So,
Neighboring city,
yes,
yeah, anything like that.
Okay.
Sister city refers usually to, we don't have one in France, I don't think.
I get what you're saying. I can make that modification for sure.
And if you were to think about adding, I don't see anything for state, county, or federal government reps. I know you have, you said county, regional influencers, but I thought maybe since those stakeholders definitely include those reps.
Will do.
And then just a question on the YouTube versus our TV PEG channel.
Yes.
So are we broadcasting this through both systems right
It should be
now?
broadcasted through both.
Okay, and then we know that you can always go back and watch the YouTube later.
Right.
But I did have a resident ask me if we were using a PEG, and I didn't know if we were, so we are, correct?
Right.
Using through Frontier.
That's
I believe
correct.
That's what you have, okay.
Yes.
And I do appreciate the I call it the evidence box, but next to your tactics, where you have your, where you have your update. I appreciate that because it tells us, according to the tactic, what's been done. So my question is that, where you plan to update that as projects go
Right.
through and fit that?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine you do it all the time, so maybe a yearly thing we would go back like an ongoing list, or?
I would probably suggest that I update it on a routine basis. So as new projects or new direction come, and then I would come back when close to the plan's completion and have an updated version for you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. It was very detailed. I appreciate that, and I appreciate all of your estimates as far as your time frame. But I really do like that evidence box, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Martinez. Mayor Pro Tem Laura.
Yeah, real quick, and this would take, obviously, council approval, but on the mission statement on page 1, it's just reading through there, and the last sentence, where it indicates the city will strive to improve the quality of life, I just thought maybe it'd be nice to add elevate the quality of life, to tie into our tagline. Just a thought.
I think it's a good thought. Yeah.
Other than that, I really do like this, and I know it's going to be a dynamic form that'll always
Right.
be growing, but you did a great job on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Okay, got good direction on that? And so are we can approve with those changes, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'll move that we, oh geez, here we go. Do I need to say the whole thing? That we adopt the updated strategic communication plan for 2023 to 2026 with the recommended changes.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes, thank you. Okay, item J2, award of contract to, how do we say that? Senegro? Say that again? Senegro, thank you. West LLC to provide sludge hauling services for the wastewater treatment plant, and that will be by a presentation by Thaxton Van Bell.
Mayor, if there's no public comments on this item, I'd like to offer a motion.
All right, let's check for, do we have any public comment?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
And that is assuming the council didn't have any questions or comments.
Your light's on, did you have a question?
I was going to second.
Okay, I don't think we have any questions.
Okay, I'll move to award a service contract with Senegro West LLC for a term of 3 years with an option to extend for 2 additional years at a rate of $63.37 a ton. Sorry, $63.37 a ton with an annual CPI.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes. Thank you. So on to item J3, City of Beaumont Travel Expense and Reimbursement Policy, and we have a staff report by Carrie Mendoza.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You have before you the new and improved revised travel training policy. This was, the original policy was adopted back in 15. It was reviewed again by yourself in 18. Staff decided to take a stab at it this year in conjunction with the CalCard policy review, as well as our annual review of our financial policies. And just clarifying that it's for elected, appointed staff as well. We looked at things specifically now that CalCards are in place about how do we deal with meals. You guys have been subject to per diem and things like that. Making sure that we're checking all the boxes and not providing per diem and then allowing a CalCard to be used for a meal on a travel purchase, right? And then trying to or allowing that and then having to go back and try to figure out, was it within the GSA or the IRS limit for that particular day? So just tried to clean up things like that. Other things like when you can use your personal vehicle if a city vehicle is not, available, when we pay mileage and all that wonderful stuff. We did go out and review other cities' policies just to make sure we were in line and not missing anything, and legal reviewed it as well. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. It did go to Finance and Audit too, back in January. I apologize for the delay.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public comment?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
And
Okay,
you
thank
should all have in front of you, sorry, I forgot. The links in the document I understood did not work because you were outside of the city's network. So I gave you samples of all the documents that are referenced and will be linked. One request from a council member was to link our Code of Ethics policy. So I've included that for your review also.
Okay, thank you. Mr. White, do you have any comments?
A question, how does this new policy change anything that council is moving forward on?
The biggest thing
our
it changed
process?
for you all was the DC trip. You were issued per diem checks as opposed to somebody taking care of meals on a CalCard.
Okay.
That was probably the biggest change, was clarifying that. That was a provision in the old policy, but when CalCards came into the picture, we started using them for things like that and realized we probably shouldn't.
Okay, so for that process, we would not have done that any differently than we will with the new process.
This, we kind of utilized DC as a trial run on the new policy.
Okay, and are CalCards basically debit cards, or what's it, explain to me what a CalCard
It's a city
is.
credit card. It's a city credit card. Each person is authorized a certain limit based on the financial policies. Only certain levels of administration supervision have them. Primarily, the biggest need for them was for travel, for booking, airlines, hotels, things of that nature. And then just miscellaneous, we have staff that do have them if they need to run to Home Depot and buy something to fix XYZ. So we have that policy, so we wanted to make sure the two were married together appropriately.
So who currently, and how would that change books air travel now for non-council members?
How would it change it?
Yeah, in other words, right now, if I have a CalCard, I can go on Southwest, American, United, I can get whatever class I want to get.
This travel form that's in front of you, that has to be filled out and run up your chain. There's one for city hall staff and there's one for police department staff. This has to be pre-approved. It's one form that shows all of your expenses. What the cost of the conference is, what the cost of the airline is, what the cost of the hotel is, what your per diem rates for food, meals, and incidentals are in a total. That has to be approved by say it's one of my staff members, I would have to approve it, and then Elizabeth has final say-so on all training.
So, believe me, I know this backwards and forwards for my company, because that's what I develop, is a web application that allows people to create expense requests. And I can tell you, for our company, all the airfare is done by our travel department. All of the hotels are booked by travel. The only thing that employees come back for are their per diems or Uber transportation. And there's controls in place, like you can't tip more than 15% on an Uber drive. So do we lose that ability at this point?
So that's in the CalCard policy, and our CalCard policy is set at an 18% gratuity across the board.
I think I'm more focused on why we wouldn't just go ahead and book the airfare and hotels and then deal with everything else on an expense statement.
So I think what you're asking is there one centralized person that does the booking? And the answer is yes. It's either Nicole for council, Shannon for admin. Chief has one person that does all of that in each department. But the form still has to be pre-approved so that employees don't go to whomever is doing the booking and saying, well, I'm going to this training, please book me a flight and a hotel. The person that books still needs the approval
Okay,
process.
so I think you've alleviated my concerns if you're telling me that airfare and lodging will still be booked by the city, not by the individuals.
No, by the city, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Each department has one or two people.
Okay.
So if I can jump in on that question then, so this form in particular, if the council was going on a legislative trip, this form is filled out on their behalf, and then the council member is still expected to sign it knowing what the limits are and how much the per diem is going to be and so forth, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, Mr. Martinez.
And on that note then, so what we did for DC is what we're doing in the future. So you have one per diem, and, but you still have to list it ahead of time and break it down, get it approved, and then you would issue a per diem check and then book everything on your end. And then if we had anything miscellaneous, like an Uber or something, then we would have that already done on here.
Seek reimbursement for that.
Okay, but sometimes you don't know exactly whether you're gonna take one or not. So do you just put it ahead of time and predict you're gonna need one every day, or is that
We're gonna do that on a reimbursement process.
on the reimbursement process? Okay, so this is only for the per diem and the lodging and so
Your
forth.
known expenses that you
Your
have
known
up front.
expen-
Everything else would have to be submitted via receipt upon return.
And there's, what form is that? And what process is that?
The same
The
form.
same form, so it just comes back and say,
Yep.
here's just what I paid. Okay, so that's kind of what we did already. We were doing that already.
Correct.
So then, okay.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Real quick, on page 5, under item B on authorized expenses, you know, under the examples you give, RCTC and WRCOG, they cover the travel, and so my suggestion was just saying that, you know, all travel not covered by the agency and outside of the regular meetings. Just a suggestion. And then travel to consultant-funded events, is that okay with Uber or not okay through Uber?
You're talking about, it would be an Uber, if you're going to a consultant event and it's a city-sponsored or city event, it would be subject to reimbursement, like discussed earlier, under the Uber rules.
Mayor Pro Tem, do you want to give an example?
Yeah.
In Sacramento, so going from the hotel or the convention center to the consultant-sponsored
Right.
event, then that Uber trip would be reimbursed.
Okay. Thank you. Just want to make sure I'm clear.
And then on those, what is the best way for council or an employee to provide documentation for that receipt? If it's Uber and I haven't used Uber in a long time, so I don't remember what it looks like. But I know you can keep track of you can print them out, so you can forward it to an
They'll
email and
you
print
a
it out?
receipt.
Okay.
They'll
all right.
email you a receipt, and I would assume you'd still go through the same
And-
process
and-
with the city clerk to
And
handle.
no receipt, no reimbursement, correct?
Correct, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Mr. White?
I didn't build. So a couple questions, questions I have. Number one, so there is the case where you think the per diem is $50 a day, for example. $100 a day is probably more realistic. But let's say the per diem's $100 a day, and you get to your location, and either there's a conference meal that you didn't know about, and so in other words, you don't get $100 a day if the conference is paying for your lunch or your dinner, or if you're going to a location with, I'm trying to change what I do with what the city might do, but there may be an instance where you get a meal paid for that you shouldn't be getting per diem for, but you've already given them the check. So how do you deal with that?
So go ahead, if you want to. The first question was the per diem, right? And if you, we're asking staff when they fill out this to add the conference agenda first and foremost.
Right.
Usually the conference agenda will show us if you're getting breakfast, lunch, or dinner, right? So then we'll back that out of the daily per diem rate. So maybe that $100 is now only 75 because we backed out breakfast. So that was your first question. Second question, if you were comped a meal or given a meal for some out-of-pocket, then you should come back and reimburse the city for that dollar amount. I would think the city attorney would recommend that, based on my discussions.
Okay, and I think I brought this up earlier with one of you two. So it talks about WRCOG and RCTC. There are a couple other, for example, Cal Cities, not the once a year event, but the once a month event. I think I think most of us realize that it's advantageous for as many of us to go as possible. Is that something that we would have to put in a request to go to a Cal Cities to get our gas reimbursed and that kind of thing?
So
Ahead of time,
the registration ahead of time would be handled by Nicole or Shannon.
the registration,
Right.
but I'm talking about
And as
the
far as mileage, then if a city car wasn't available, or you chose to drive your own car, then you could submit the reimbursement for the mileage.
Okay, and I think when I talked to one of you about this, was it you, I think, Elizabeth? Did I ask you about the Cal Cities?
I don't know.
Anyways, yeah, you bring up the idea of city cars. Do we have a policy on city cars? I didn't even know city cars were an option. I've heard people talk about using city cars, but I've never asked to use
I
one.
remember this conversation. It was me.
Okay.
So we have more city cars than we used to. And each department has access to at least one car, if not more. We do have elected officials that travel, that ask to use a city car in lieu of driving their own car and getting mileage reimbursement. I plan to propose in next year's budget a dedicated car just to city council, and that's entirely up to council whether or not you want to approve that. I'm putting $40,000 in the budget for a city council car so that the keys are here. If you have to go to RTA, RCTC, SCAG, wherever you need to go, you can come here, park your car, and drive the city car. It's truly a personal preference. Just like staff, some of us prefer to drive our own cars. Others prefer to drive city cars. It's a personal preference.
So I'll wait till that comes to the budget to weigh in on that process of a city council car. But I think my bigger question is, do we have a policy on using city cars that applies to everybody, including council?
It is a policy that you have to be included in the DMV.
poll.
What's it called?
It's the poll notice.
The poll notice. So we get access to your driving record in exchange for you using a city vehicle. You're automatically covered under the city's insurance policy. We're self-insured. So other than being in the poll notice, no, there's no official.
So there's no policy on how you pick it up, what you do with it, how you drop it off?
No, that
What
would be more
happens-
like a procedure, but we can put one together.
That's what I'm hoping you would
We can
do.
put a procedure together.
Yeah, just,
The
I mean,
policy
you've
would
got
be-
a policy on everything else for travel. I think you should have it on the cars if that's part of travel. Do the city cars have toll roads reimbursement?
We do add the exempt plates to the toll roads.
You do have the exempt plates for toll roads? Okay. All right, thank you.
I didn't know that either. Do we have any other questions from council? Okay, and we're not ready to approve, we're just giving recommendations? Or can we approve with those
You
changes?
can adopt with the changes
Okay.
that Mr. Lara recommended. I'm good
We
with that.
comfortable
I
with a
have-
motion to approve with the adopted changes?
Someone second it?
Okay, so do we have a
Motion?
a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem, is that correct?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve with changes.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember White,
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Finn.
Yes. Thank you. And on to item J4, contracts for special counsel services, and staff report by Carrie Mendoza.
So you
Mayor,
have-
if there's no public comments,
It's easy.
council does not have questions or comments, I'm ready to make a motion on J4.
Okay, I see all lights off, so do we have any public comments on the matter?
You do have one contract, excuse me. You do have one contract on the dais that came in late. John was able to review it. That was from Manning and Cass. That's the hard copy that's in front of you. It was not included in your agenda packet. Nicole has extra copies for the public if they're interested. Quick caveat.
All right, thanks for pointing that out. Any public comments?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Mayor, can I make one comment?
Yes.
I was asked today by the general manager of the Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District about, I'm going to murder this name, Somach Simmons, Somach Simmons and Dunn, if that was a new consulting contract. They are not a consultant. They are outside legal counsel. The consultant for the recycled water adaptive management plan was approved by council in August of 2023. This is outside legal counsel to help us through the change of use permit, the 1211. So there's the adaptive management plan that ties to the change of use permit. I want to make sure that's clear, that we're not just now hiring a consultant for the recycled water process.
Thank you. With that, Mr. White, does your motion still stand?
Yes, Mayor, I move to authorize the city manager to execute contracts with the following 4 firms, and as listed.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. And roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes, thank you. On to item J5, review and provide direction on the fiscal year 2024-2025 through 2026-2027, Table 4 drafts, and that's our short-range transit plan, and a staff report by Carrie Mendoza.
And I'm actually going to invite up Matthew to give you a quick presentation on the 3 tables identifying the 3 next fiscal years in our planned RCTC.
Thank you. Welcome, Matthew.
Good evening, Council. Tonight I stand before you to present the first draft of Beaumont's operating and capital budgets for fiscal years 24-25 through 26-27. These tables are developed as part of the process for the short-range transit plan, which is a required document submitted annually to the Riverside County Transportation Commission. The proposed operating budget before you today reflects the need for funding to continue our ongoing operations, including our 4 fixed routes, 3 peak service fixed routes, 2 commuter links, and our paratransit services. Some service highlights for this upcoming fiscal year. Our Casino Express is up 42%. We're proposing to increase the service to provide midday services. Currently, hours of operation are 6:30 to 10:10, and then 2:45 to 6:20. So there's a significant gap in the midday. The second proposed change we're hoping for in the upcoming year is the CommuterLink 125 ridership is continuing to decline coming out of the pandemic. Staff is proposing service to be added to the Ukaipa Transit Center, as this is a popular request in our customer service. One more update I would like to provide on our ridership. Through third quarter of the current fiscal year, system-wide, we are up 8.5%. This is attributable to a 19% increase on our commuter links, a 6% increase on our fixed routes, and a 23% increase on Delride. Now for project updates, we have, in March, we released an RFP for our 4th and Vale City and Transit Yard. This property is going to lead the way for Beaumont's transition to zero emissions. The RFP is closing this May, and just to provide an overview of that project, it's expected to house a hydrogen fueling station, CNG fueling station, an administrative facility, a vehicle maintenance facility, and EV charging infrastructure. Our goal is to begin construction in 2027 to ensure that transit services are not affected or hindered due to this transition to zero emissions and the state mandates. The next project update I have for you is in December of 2023, we posted an RFP for a bus stop improvement plan. In last year's SRTP, we were approved for $40,000 for the study to be completed. As part of this study, the selected consultant was going to assist us with establishing a new bus stop policy that would include clear and concise design standards and requirements for new developers. Additionally, Beaumont has $100,000 in microtransit funding for a feasibility analysis. Unfortunately, we received 3 bids for our bus stop improvement plan, and all bids exceeded our current budget. Staff now proposes to release a request for proposals that includes the microtransit feasibility analysis, the bus stop improvement study, and additionally, a comprehensive operations analysis. Our last one was completed in 2020, and it is due to be refreshed. This will allow one consultant to comprehensively evaluate all of our services as a whole and all the connections between the bus stops and the service types, such as microtransit. It is expected we would bring this back as an amendment request to the current SRTP to reappropriate prior funds. We have 9 buses that are ordered that are expected to be delivered this fall. Once we have these buses and we can close out those projects, we would like to reappropriate some of that funding to the comprehensive operations analysis portion and the shortfall we have on the microtransit and bus stop improvement study. With that, I am happy to answer any questions on this year's Table 4 drafts.
All right, thank you, Matthew. Do we have any public comments?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have one caller on the line.
Okay, go ahead and send it through. Caller, can you hear us?
Yes,
Go right ahead.
thank you. Yes, good evening, council. This is Ron Roy. It's really good that Beaumont has its own transit. We need that to control our transit options in the area. And, I wanted to bring up an unmet need, which is a commuter link service from the past year, like Walmart out to Palm Desert. Don't hold it against me. You can blame me. I want to blame you, but I have totally written a lot to the County Transportation Commission. I have really tried to articulate this the best way I can. So it's that season when we come up with the SRTPs. And I do think there's an unmet need, and I think this commuter link, you can call it Coachella Valley Link or, whatever, would be hourly, at least Monday through Saturday, getting out to College of the Desert, probably around 6:30 in the morning, would be very easy to link with the Sunlight Transit. They have a Thousand Palms station, which gets you all through Palm Springs. You get out there to College of the Desert and that shopping mall, and then you get the rest of the Coachella Valley. So you're looking at only 2 stops. I mean, it's unmet need. There's a lot of people who are not rich. They depend on transit. I was skimming through the report. The lion's share, like over 7% of the people who use transit, are people who need to use transit. I mean, they need it for their jobs. There's terrific job opportunities out there in hospitality, education, shopping is another option. So what's the bottom line? So I'm looking at Table 4. There's LTF and STA funds. So, God. So, apparently LTF funds 120, 125 in the Casino Express. If you look at those 3, they average around 455,000. So way back when, and I don't want to put Miss Gibbs, who used to be our transit guru czar, on the spot. So, but that was running about 450,000 to start up Community Link 120. And a demonstration project, we should be able to get out there at least a couple of times in the morning. I know that Sunlink's poaching us and robbing us blind. They're poaching 120. I don't think they're playing nice. The gatekeeper for LTF is RTC. I don't like it. What we need to do is defend our right to get better service. Did I hit the 3-minute mark? But, you know, I need to bring this up. We need to wait for the blowback. It will come from from Sunline, but we have a right to more frequent service into the Coachella Valley. And, you know, I wonder what it'd be like with Stagecoach and, you know, Coachella if we had that service available. So please, you know, let's get that demonstration project started. I want to get that word out, okay? This is why I'm here on this one. We should have it. And so thanks, Beaumont Transit. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Any other comments?
Any other speakers, Rudy?
I have no other callers on the line.
Okay, thank you. Council discussion, Mr. White?
So at the risk of getting this wrong, I'm going to defer to Elizabeth, but isn't there issues with Sunline and our ability to, I know when it comes up at RCTC that Sunline has a big, what's the word I'm looking for? They're the big dog in the room. And so can you speak to what you remember about Sunline? Like I said before, I butcher it and then.
So about 4 years ago, Sunline proposed a route to Cal State San Bernardino, and they wanted to stop in Beaumont, and they were going to go to the San Bernardino Transit Center. They were going to go to Cal State first, and then the San Bernardino Transit Center. And at the time, the city manager and I met with our CTC, and we pushed hard because we felt, and we had the data to show that it would negatively affect our ridership. At the time, there was little that we could do about it because Sunline had done the study that said it would not, and they were running at a different time than we were. However, until the route was actually put into place, and I can't remember Sunline's route number, the 110 or something like that. Until the route was put in place, there was no actual data to show that it would not negatively affect our 120. I don't know that that's still happening. The service that was done and the study that was done was specifically to move passengers from the Cal State Palm Desert area to the Cal State San Bernardino area. And what we opposed was them stopping in Beaumont. They're still stopping in Beaumont, and obviously the route is successful because I see it every morning when I go to the gym. I would have to defer to staff on what our stats, if they've dropped and things like that. I wouldn't be able to speak specifically on that route.
So I think the question that I have is, Sunline is stopping in Beaumont.
Correct.
And they are going from Beaumont to Desert, right?
Correct.
So if we go and say we want to do a route from Beaumont to the Desert, they're going to have issues with that.
They could
right?
argue duplicated services like we did, 4 or 5 years ago. We're the smaller agency, and it would cost us a lot more. We did at one time about 7 or 8 years ago when Mr. Roy brought this to my attention when I was the department head. We did map it out. It's what we call a lot of deadhead, meaning passenger revenue miles are reduced. We don't have the staffing levels that Sunline does, and it would be difficult for us to put that route in. Matt mentioned a comprehensive operations analysis that needs to be done. That can be included in that study, and let the study tell us if that's a need. What we really want to be talking about is there a need, an unmet need? And right now, with Sunline running that route, I would argue that it is a met need. and let the comprehensive operations analysis tell us where Beaumont's needs are.
And we're already doing a comprehensive analysis study on other routes and other issues, right?
I believe that's what we're proposing in this
We're
budget year.
proposing to come back with an amendment to reappropriate funds for a comprehensive operations analysis.
See, and I don't really have a problem suggesting that we analyze the Beaumont, the exact route that Mr. Roy is suggesting, because for sure, if we do that, we'll get a full comprehensive study from Sunline telling us something probably different. So I don't have a problem going that route as long as we're not doing it just for that route. And
No,
we're
right.
focusing
No,
on
they're
the
gonna
whole
look at
big
the
picture.
whole.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should at least entertain the idea and wait for the pushback.
There may be more of a need to go to Crafton Hills. It's because the service isn't there doesn't mean that it's an unmet need.
But can we do things, I mean, he brings up the events out in Coachella. Can we do things that are geared just for that? I mean,
We are
is there-
prohibited from becoming a charter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a charter would be considered if it was just a one-time, like special event oriented? So it has to be more of like a permanent, regular route if something's established?
The Transportation Development Act allows you to do expo routes, like demo routes. In other words, in an effort to get passengers to use public transit, we're going to put a route in that goes to Coachella and back. I would not recommend that because the traffic is so bad. If a bus is standing still on the freeway, it's not
money.
providing
Yeah.
the service that you want. There's other routes in place, Sunline or Uber, things like that. We really need to do the comprehensive operations analysis and go to the public here in Beaumont and find out where do they need to go. That's really what we need to do, because that tells us, that gives us our master plan on where we should be going, where we don't need to be going, things like that, what times, how often.
Okay. Mr. White, you still good? Okay. Mr. Martinez?
Just going back to the new percentage for the fare box recovery coming up. At 20% is what the new percentage is based on our population. Tell me which one of these we're at. I'm confused on the 12.87 versus the 15.11. Which one?
So technically speaking, we are at the 15% right now.
Okay.
The 12% is with all routes, which paratransit services are exempt until further legislation. And then the Casino Express is exempt until fiscal year 26-27.
Which is about when that's going to kick in.
Yes, yes. It kicks in 27-28.
And then when it says 20% or blended ratio, do we qualify anything there?
So we will be able to qualify for a blended ratio. However, it's going to be very minimal due to the amount of bus stops or service miles that we have outside of the urbanized area map versus inside the urbanized areas.
Okay. Okay. That's all. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Matthew, I've got a quick question. So the 9 buses you said that we're expecting in the future, most of those are paid with grant money or county and so forth. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And then we have I don't want to call it an exchange program, but that we have a way to dispose of the older buses that we don't use anymore, that those will replace, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And on those new buses, are they all CNG and some hydrogen, or is there any electric in there too, or?
All of them in this round are CNG.
Okay. And then as part of our Fourth and Veely facility, if I'm calling it right, that has a CNG refilling component. And that we have the opportunity to then sell CNG to the public.
Yes.
And if I'm correct, the closest one that I'm aware of is in Hemet, is that right? And
Hemet or Redlands.
Or Redlands, okay. So that would be the only one up in the pass area then, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Or only public.
Only public
yes.
one.
Banning does have one.
okay. But then that's only for banning in a sense,
yes.
right? Okay. And then that revenue then will help offset what we need to contribute.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
What we do?
Does staff have what they need from us?
Can I ask my questions?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even see you. I looked right past you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Really quickly, glad that we're looking at the microtransit. On the bus stop design standards, when they do that review, will they take into account the volume of ridership at each?
Yes,
stop?
yes. Part of the study would be to look at how many riders are using specific stops and if it needs more amenities, or if what we have is currently sufficient.
Like Walmart's a great example. It needs a
Okay.
larger cutout, right?
Right.
So those are things that will be addressed in the study.
Perfect.
Yes.
And then looking at the projections, some of the funding sources, do we have any concerns in regards to the time limit that the money has to be spent?
No, so SB 125 funds that are being allocated for Fourth and Bailey, RCTC has given us direction to expend them by 2030. And that is not a firm policy, it is more their direction. Our plan is to start construction in 2027, so we would be in line with having those funds fully expended.
Perfect. And the last question is on the fiscal year 26, 27, they don't identify a require or a fare box on that projection?
Yes, so it looks like the attachment didn't upload correctly. So it's actually a 12.88, so it is only up 0.1% from the current fiscal year. That is due to the personnel increase per the MOU with the 5% or 2.5 to 5% inflation adjustment, and then also the employees' merit. And then we're projecting a 15% increase in other revenues due to our advertising program. And then fare revenues are projected at a 3% increase.
Thank you very much. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thanks. Sorry for ignoring you there, Mr. Light.
Yeah, before we move on, just real quick.
Sure.
Do you guys know that the Metrolink is going to be making trips from Paris to Angel Stadium? And I think, how do you get from here to Paris? Is that something that we could consider?
Yes.
Okay. I know you're an Angels fan too. So.
Well, I'm trying to talk my husband into taking that train instead of driving to Anaheim.
Right.
It's opening weekend this weekend.
Oh, it is this weekend?
We just happen to have a wedding in the middle of it.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
But yes, we do know about that. I would recommend that we don't go to Paris, that we go to UCR. It would be
Okay.
closer, but that is definitely something we could look at. We'd have to do a budget amendment with RCTC in order to start it this year. And I don't know that we have the staff to run that right now. So
Okay.
it's something that we can look at for next year and next year's budget, but I would include that as part of the master plan that we're talking about as well.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
One more thing to note on the commuter links, adding commuter links, RCTC has given us their stance on us adding more commuter links, and they would prefer that we request these services to be provided from Sunline or RTA. If we have an analysis to prove why it is needed, and if we have the community support, and if we have, or if RTA or Sunline declines to provide the service, they would be a bit more obligated to give us the approval, but at this time, a study would need to be done.
All right, thank you, Matthew, appreciate it. Okay, on to item J6, update discussion on zoning code update and design standards. A staff report by Christina Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Before you this evening is a brief update and request for discussion and direction regarding the zoning code update and design standards. This is part of the strategic plan and is identified in the staff report as Target 5, Goal 1, as well as Target 3, Goal 6. In this fiscal year, 23-24, Council authorized $350,000 to update the zoning code and develop design guidelines. In September, planning staff issued a request for proposals for this project. And in November, a professional services agreement was awarded to Lisa Weiss Consulting for both the zoning code update and the design standards. The anticipated timeline for completion of this code update is approximately 18 months. There is a schedule attached to this staff report as attachment A. At council's direction, several meetings ago, it was requested of staff to get an estimate of what the process would look like and the time and cost to expedite the design standards portion of the code update. We did speak with our consultant and get a proposal, and the information is included in the staff report. So what's happened at this point is a framework has been developed for the project as a whole, which is what was included in the proposal when it was awarded. And so in order to break that out, we would be creating essentially a new sub-project that would require developing a framework for integrating the standards into the current code structure. We would have a study session. We would have a call or Zoom with council members, similar to what we did with the objective design standard process for any of you who remember participating in that. There would be 2 public hearings required for adoption of the design standards, and then they would be integrated into the current code structure. We would then have to refine the standards that are in the code update, and then there would be various project management and other things would have to be adjusted as part of revising the process. It would take approximately 4 to 6 months to complete this project through adoption of the design standards, and the ballpark estimate at this time would be about $45,000 additional dollars to break this project out and expedite it. Based on this information, staff is recommending continuing the process as originally proposed. We, as I said, have $350,000 allocated. The total contract amount is $368,000, although as stated in the fiscal impact, we will have as cost savings from the climate action plan that are going to fund the rest of the design, zoning code update and design standards, and that will be brought to you at a future adjustment period in the capital improvement program. But staff is recommending continuing the process as originally proposed. We have spoken with the consultant requesting some assistance with alternatives to address the interim concerns, which staff does understand from discussion with council that there is a desire to hold developers accountable across the board on design standards and aesthetics for projects that are coming through, and understanding that we will be looking at some of these projects prior to completion of the design guidelines and zoning code update being completed. So we have the ability to create an interim policy, which would not require codification, but much like the PLUS or the fee waiver policy or micronite policy, serves as a guiding document that both staff, planning commission, and council can use when reviewing projects. And we could address through that policy design criteria, aesthetic issues, many of the components that we have heard comments on from both commission and council over the last year and a half of looking at these projects. And we could do that internally. The consultant has provided us a number of resources and materials that other cities have done similarly to what we're talking about here, and we would be able to bring something forward if that's council's direction. At this time, again, staff is requesting council hold discussion and provide direction on whether or not to expedite the design standards separately from the zoning code update or create an interim policy. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public comments?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
All right, thank you. Council discussion. Anybody going to jump out and go first? Mayor Pro Tem.
Sure, I'll go. Thank you very much for that, Christine. I appreciate that. Obviously, with money being what it is, we don't want to spend an extra $45,000 to try to expedite this. We still don't think it would be supported. But doing the other option, which I appreciate, are there teeth to those options?
Yeah, I believe there are, just like I said, with the example with the PLUS or with the fee waiver policies that we've done for a special event, the market night policy that we've recently adopted. It's not codified, but it is a guiding document that is adopted by this body that allows us to utilize that both as direction to staff and the developers on what's expected as part of the project review.
So you guys would use basically the information that the consultant has provided to help put something together that you would bring back to us? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so we're very early on in the process still, so what they've done is they've looked at other cities because they knew this was a big concern for council, this particular component. And so they front-loaded us with a bunch of information. City of Rancho Cucamonga, City of Milpitas, City of Hayward, off the top of my head, those ones have all had some significant work done in their design standards and guidelines. They have codified theirs, but there are both text and graphics that support the standards that have been put in place. And so we have those along with several other resources that the consultant has provided to us. Also, this stems from their recommendation, which was, you could do an interim policy, which would be helpful while we continue through the process.
I appreciate that option very much. Thank you so much.
A question I have is, if we expedite this, do we cut off somebody that's in the middle of something right now?
So typically, if it's not adopted, they're grandfathered in. I use the term loosely, right? Although in many of the cases, the projects that are coming to you, staff is already working with the developer on what we know is expected of the project from an enhancement standpoint as far as aesthetics, site layout, landscaping, those types of things. We would still encourage them very much to follow the policy or the newly adopted standards. But could we force them to? No, that would be at their own choice whether or not they chose to take staff's recommendation and guidance.
Okay, and for a building that's already there, we don't like the color of it, and it's time for them to paint in the future, would they be grandfathered under that, or would they follow these new design standards?
So we're currently working with the consultant on what that would look like. We've heard that loud and clear on a number of buildings in town here. So they're looking into what other cities have done as far as, retro activity and what that would look like when you do a new upgrade on a site.
Okay, and is painting considered an upgrade, or is it maintenance?
So it's a little bit of a gray area because painting does not require a permit. So that's what we're looking into. What are some other triggers or ways that we could possibly address that?
Okay.
Yes.
I appreciate that, and I think we all know what who we're talking about. So, Ms. Voigt.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for reaching out and finding out if that was an option. I too would not support stepping out at this time to pull that, but I do like the policy option.
Mr. Martinez?
Yeah, I as well don't think that expediting is cost effective at this point, but I do like your option. So my question is, I know you have not so much to do. What are you looking like at as far as time? Because, it's one more thing on your plate.
Sure. So as we're all aware, we're wrapping up some rather large projects through planning right now. Because we have been provided a fair amount of resources, I don't think it would take incredibly long. It would not get ahead of projects that are currently on your agendas, but it would be able to follow close behind. I would say we're in April, probably by end of May or June, we could have a first draft for you to look at and get feedback on before we took it to be a final.
Okay, so, and let's see, that brings us to June, July, and then this project still has another, 7-8 months according to that timeline?
We're looking at, I believe, let me pull up the.
Summer 25.
Summer 25,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, that's reasonable. Yeah. All right, thanks.
Mr. White?
You're never going to get United Legwear or the new Amazon painted, so I just want to throw that out there. That's not my ask to speak. So if we were to go with a Land Plus type committee, and I would nominate Mike Laura for that one, would that be giving direction to planning that would sort of enforce that? Would it be giving any direction to Planning Commission?
So this is a policy that would be staff drafted. You could choose to direct staff this evening to put together a policy and bring it back to this body, or you could establish a subcommittee if that's council's wish to provide input ahead of time while we draft the policy. That would be up to you. We could take it to planning commission first or bring it directly back to this body for your feedback. The policy would be utilized initially by staff to review a project to make sure that the project is capturing council's direction and intent with what you all want to see on a project by project basis. We would carry that through to the commission. The commission would also be advised that the policy is in place. And so when we would go through the staff report, much like we cite other policies that exist, whether it's, again, the plus policy or a fee waiver policy, we would cite how the project meets the policy's goals and objectives or requirements as that's presented to planning commission and or council when it was presented for whatever staff's recommendation would be.
I think the interim approach would also give us a good head start on what the final standard designs are going to be. You know, it won't be all new to us if we did something with an interim approach.
Agreed.
So I'm in favor of considering that as opposed to having council review as a body the design standards. I think it'd be better if we did an ad hoc committee on something like that.
Another one, huh? All right, any other questions or comments, or do we want to do an ad hoc? Do we have any volunteers?
I'll come up with a name for the committee, okay?
All right, so we'd expect staff then to put together something first then on it. Okay, all right. I like the idea of staff going to planning commission myself too, put them to work.
Okay.
Do you guys want to have more of a discussion about that? I mean, what do you? Okay.
Staff have a question or comment?
I recommend that it go to planning commission after budget. We need to get.
Oh, okay, understood. Yeah, timing wise, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure
Okay.
we're not expected to go to planning commission in the next.
We were, okay, and my thought was, and correct me if other council members are different, that staff come up with that, take it to planning commission, and then if need be, if planning commission says, whoa, we need more input from council, then we look at an ad hoc at that point.
We also have a vacancy in ComDev, and so I just want to be mindful of staff's workload.
Okay.
Mayor, I also think it needs to be clear that it's policy set by council to planning commission, not planning
understood.
commission
Understood.
to council.
Okay. So it's in staff's hands for now.
Got it.
We'll take it from there. How's that? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So on to item J7, International Council of Shopping Centers, ICSC Annual Conference attendance. And this would be a mayoral appointment of 2 council members to attend the conference. And staff report by Elizabeth Gibbs.
So every year, staff attends ICSC, which is the International Council of Shopping Centers. It's a huge conference in Las Vegas. A lot of cities attend. There's Riverside County gives us space in their booth to meet with developers and promote Beaumont and solicit what we have here for economic development purposes. In the past, at least in my reign, council has not attended that, and I am recommending that not just staff go this year, that 2 council members attend. I believe that developers want to hear from electeds. They want to know that there's stability at the top, and they want the vision from council representatives on what is the plan for the future. Staff can certainly do that, but I think it goes a long way when city council is present. And so I'm requesting, if the mayor and council so choose, I'm requesting that the mayor appoint 2 to attend. It is a quick trip. It starts on the 19th, which is a Sunday. It goes all day Monday, and then you would be returning Tuesday morning because we have city council that night.
Okay. Does that conclude your report? Yes. Okay, do we have any public comments?
I have no written requests. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
All right, thank you. And so looking at who is on our Economic Development Committee, we have Ms. Voigt and Mr. White. And so just a knee-jerk reaction thought on that is maybe that's a perk of being on that committee. And so I'll throw it out to the council on, obviously somebody, I would assume somebody wants to go.
I would
So I'd like
to
to
go.
hear the volunteers on that.
I'll
So-
volunteer.
Okay, so Mr. White?
I would go as well.
All right. Any comments from the other two? All right, very good. There's the perks of the job. And so I will, as mayor, appoint the two of you to attend that conference and expect a nice report from both of you on that. So,
Thank you,
all
Mayor.
right, thank you. Okay, on to item K, legislative updates and discussion.
No legislative update this evening. Staff, well, I should say brief legislative update. No bill updates this evening. Staff did have a brief call with Senator Butler's office today regarding our community benefit funding requests. And the call went well. Myself and Public Works Director Vestal were on that to talk about the need within the city, the reason we put those projects forth and what our requests are, how it would benefit the community. I have our standing call with our state lobbyists next Monday. And so I will have a more updated legislative report for you at the next council meeting.
All right, thank you. And economic development update?
No meeting was held this last week, but our next meeting will be, I believe, April 10th. And we'll have a report out from that meeting at the following council meeting.
All right, thank you. And we don't have our city treasurer tonight, so our city clerk? Any report? Okay, thank you. And city attorney?
Yes, briefly, some of the matters that we're handling involve litigation that's been filed against the city, and so once a month I give you a report on that. The Illapatafe cases, we're working with Miss Illapatafe to get her into compliance. We're working with staff. Staff's an integral part of that, so we continue to work with staff on moving that forward. And the idea there is to get her into compliance, the property into compliance, but it's taking some time. The next item is Wright versus the City of Beaumont. That is an e-bike accident case where the city's being sued for damages. Currently, we demanded that Tri-Point reimburse the city for its attorney fees in the case, and they are currently doing that. The stage of that case is it's in the discovery phase. And then Cazares versus City of Beaumont, that's also a bike accident case, and similar to the Wright case, the city is being reimbursed by Tri-Point for its attorney fees in that case. And then Baker versus the City of Beaumont, that's a motor vehicle accident case, and it's in the discovery phase. And then there are three cases that relate to a officer-involved shooting, and that's the Blackwell Llewellyn versus City of Beaumont, in which they were seeking relief from the government claims requirements, and there was a hearing on that. The court ruled against the city, and we're likely going to take that up on appeal. And then Godart versus the City of Beaumont relates to that same incident, that same shooting incident, and that's at the pleading stage. And then Pietranico versus City of Beaumont, also at the pleading stage, relates to that same incident. And then Kristen Fernley versus the City of Beaumont, that's a trip and fall involving a broken ankle due to allegedly stepping into a hole at Stewart Park while attending the plaintiff's child's baseball game or practice, and that's in the discovery phase. And then Faulkner versus Alan Heydrich, that's at the pleading stage, and that's a lawsuit where the moving party is alleging an improper search and seizure related to an investigation of a crime or potential crime. And then Webb versus City of Beaumont, that's a car accident in which the plaintiff alleges that traffic lights at the intersection of Highland Springs Avenue and First Street were not working properly. And that's my report this evening.
All right, thank you. And city manager report.
I don't have a report. I do just want to mention briefly the Iowa Golf Championship. We do have a team. I believe we have one council member signed up, Mayor Pro Tem Lara. Is that what I understand? I need two more. I understand, I have it on good authority that Doug Story is a good golfer. And we need a third.
What's your handicap, Doug?
So if city council, if there isn't any other city council members that want to golf, I'm going to handpick a staff member. Is that okay? Okay.
You don't want me playing golf.
Banning has 3 they've named, and Calamasa has their 3, so I'll be reporting to Morongo tomorrow on who ours will be.
Doug's getting excited back there. All right.
I think Robert's ready.
Are you ready, Robert?
Robert, you're ready to start swinging a golf club, right?
Darn. All right. Is that it? All right, thank you. Any additions to our future agenda items list? Okay, seeing none, and council reports. I'll go first tonight. I attended the VFW annual award ceremony, and there was a lot of awards given out. I'd like to praise our youth from the San Gorgonio Middle School. There was many students that won awards with writing essays and so forth. But I want to give a shout out to 2 teachers of the year, Miss Gail Reed from San Gorgonio Middle School and Miss Carla Mendelson from Mojave River Academy. And for a law enforcement award, our own Officer Dan Lee. So congratulations to that. So that concludes my report, and on to Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. So I attended the Cal Cities Environmental Quality Committee meeting in Burbank, and we had a discussion on the long-term urban water conservation plan coming, brought to you by the state, and a lot of parameters coming from that for water and conservation, and that I'm sure we'll be hearing about soon. We also talked about the AB 1999 bill, where it's the fixed charge from your utility, electrical utility, as opposed to a tier for infrastructure. And we had a pretty robust discussion on that, because a lot of us thought it was really out of the scope of Cal Cities, and it's a part of their objectives to not get into detailed, take a side when it comes to rates and so forth. So a lot of us took that approach, but then there were many that thought that it was worth discussion. So I think at the end, we voted to take a watch position on that to recommend to the Cal Cities E-Board. We had no quorum for the Youth Council. We will be concentrating on recruitment for next year at the next meeting. I attended the Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District meeting with Councilmember White and Guru Gibbs, and that went well. Czar Guru. And the RCA meeting I attended, we're preparing for Aaron Haight to take over from Ms. Meyer soon. And we talked about, we did authorize 2 purchase properties from the 200 tax defaulted properties from the county that we'll be using to incorporate into the conservation properties. And we discussed some of the long-term goals, and we've acquired at this point 68,000 acres out of a goal of 153 acres for the conservation. And that's it.
Thank you. Ms. White.
I don't have too much to report. I just want to say thank you to the team that competed in Baker to Vegas. Thank you guys for all your effort that you put in representing the city, and a job well done. So thank you guys for that, and all the support team.
We're going to have a full report on the April 16th.
Oh, good. Sorry. Jumped the gun.
No,
Very
that's
nice.
okay.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, thank you. I attended WRCOG yesterday, got a first glance at the budget, and also there looks like there's going to be a proposed increase to our membership fees of about $2,007. They have a formula that they use. We could ask for a copy of it, but it is based on an increase in population and property valuation over the 10-year period. Also, I just want to thank the grounds and maintenance group for their efforts at the sports park. Watching my grandkids play soccer there, it looks like the fields are very flat and well maintained, so I appreciate that very much. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. White?
Yeah, and I look forward to AYSO coming in and thanking us for what we've done in the parks. I'm sure that'll happen soon. The golf is Wednesday or Thursday for the contest?
I don't have the
Wednesday.
calendar, it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And I really only have to report that I also went to the Water District meeting with Martinez and the Guru. Yes. I wanted to look to make sure I was talking to the right person.
The right Martinez?
But I think we impressed upon them that we're going to come to an agreement on the issues, not recycled water related, but all the other issues that you guys are struggling with. And I think it's important that, and I got approval from the Guru minutes before I proposed this, was that we would sort of have a TAC meeting, our city manager and our public works director with their director, general manager, and their engineer. So I think that'll help move things along. And I guess that's all I have to report.
All right, thank you, Mr. White, Mr. Martinez. Appreciate your extra work on multiple committees. Yes, thank you. Good way to put it. So we will adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:39 p.m.